Outdoors Tribe would like to welcome you to this episode of this podcast, and in particular, welcome Jeff and Cate from Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and Liquid Fusion Kayaking.
No.
Back it up, buddy. California.
Where did I say?
Carolina.
Oh, no. They're definitely from California. That's right. Sorry. It's what happens when you get a POM to go and do the interviewing. He's bloody lost to start with. That's how we found half the world as English people, is we got lost going around the world. And then we found a new country.
You know, well done.
There we go. So for those of you who don't know Jeff and Cate, I want to tell you a little bit about them, but I'm just going to give you my version. So they are part of my North American friends. I only ever see them in North America and don't see them often enough. And when somebody says to me, who would you send your daughter out to go and be safe and have a great time with? These two wonderful people always jump into my mind. And there's not many people who I'd go and give my precious little 4-year-old to and say, here you go, I trust you. So not only are these two people amazing human beings, trusted to look after my daughter, they are also some of the best kayak coaches I've ever had the privilege to work with. And they get to do that work in one of the best locations that I've yet to go to, which I'm going to repeat now is Fort Bragg, North California, right?
That's better. Absolutely.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So both of you, welcome to the podcast. What are you drinking today? That's a good question.
Thanks, Rob. So, cheers. I've got a what's known as a bulletproof coffee. Ooh. So it's heavy whipping cream, strong espresso coffee, and a big blab butter, all blended up.
There you go. Cate, you don't look so impressed by the idea of bulletproof coffee. Is that right?
Well, let's just say sometimes he needs a nice big cup. Yeah.
Jeepers.
But today, there I went. This is the disappearing. Look, I got my invisibility cloak. I've got some mint herbal tea.
Ooh, that is very North California or West Coast even, mint herbal tea. Cool.
Yep.
Isn't it? What? You've disappeared? It's disappeared again. That's so magic. Whoa. I can hear myself speaking in two different places. So I want to ask you both a question that I don't know the answer to. If you were ever expecting a serious podcast interview with things that I had prepared and so on and so forth, we're in the wrong place for that. Here's how these podcasts work for all these listeners out there is the three of us have a great discussion. Other people can chip in and ask questions. And if they don't like it, they don't have to listen. Really easy. Good? So what I really want to know is, how did you two both get into, kayaking? How did that start? Where did the journey begin?
I'll start, since I started before Cate, kind of. So my first kayak experience was down the bottom of the hill from my parents' house. It was a flooded creek, and my buddy and I took the tandem kayak that his brother built. It was a single kayak. We jumped in it, no life jackets, one paddle, into a flooded creek, made 2 turns, and capsized. And I was able to, it was my first rescue as well. So I grabbed a tree branch, grabbed my buddy. He climbed up me into the tree, pulled me up. And then let's fast forward 20 years. I was in the United States Marine Corps, and I got introduced to tandem kayaks that we used to paddle around in the sea and play on. And then luckily, I was bartending one day with a good friend of mine, Mike Stivers, and he's like, hey, can you help me out? I'm teaching a kayak class. And he gave me his class. He quit and was like, hey, here you go. And 2 weeks later, I was learning to kayak better and teaching it at the same time. Yeah, fast forward another 10 years, I worked for an outfitter, and I was teaching and guiding, learning how to be a proper kayak coach. and then really found my passion into the paddle sports world. And I'm really a fish out of water when I'm at home and on land, and love teaching and guiding it in all aspects. And now we run our business in Northern California, and I ain't slowing down.
So marine to bartender to kayak coach in like 3 weeks or something is about what you're summarizing for me.
Yes.
That is superb. We've got a few mutual friends joining us as we talk. Mr. Kuthi has jumped online here and joined us on Facebook. He says, love you guys. Everyone on this video is an amazing human, which I guess he's talking about you two and maybe me. Who knows? So Kate, what about you? How did you get into this?
Oh boy. Well, I tell people, Jeff's not heard this story exactly, but it was a little bit of a love story. Yeah.
I hope I'm involved.
Jeff and I met, and at the time he was a gypsy kayak instructor, traveling from Baja to Alaska, teaching and guiding sea kayaking, whitewater river kayaking, surf kayaking, and on one of his journeys, he ended up stopping in Northern California on the Mendocino coast, and we met. Well, I was a teacher at the time, and things progressed from there. So when I had time off from school, I would go to wherever Jeff was teaching. So maybe be the Kern River, maybe be San Diego, maybe Baja, and connect with him, and of course, hop on his kayak classes. Now, his clients at the time were really excited when he met me, because they thought, oh, great, we've got somebody to handle the logistics and things that Jeff doesn't do. We've got a shuttle. I think they really thought I was going to be the shuttle bunny and the camp cook. Well, that didn't really happen. I fell in love with kayaking. And so that was the beginning for me, and kind of rolled from there.
Nice. So knowing where you guys live there in Fort Bragg on the Mendocino coast, you've got a bit of a mecca for kayak sports within a very close distance of where you are. Whether you want to surf, sea kayak, whitewater kayak, bounce off rocks, jump off things, climb on things, rescue things, like it's all there. How do you choose what to do on a day?
Are the fish biting? Really, really flat? Can you hear the surf from the house? Or has it been raining for a few days and the rivers are pumping? So Mother Nature helps give us that direction. And then we look at each other and like, what do you want to do today? What kind of adventure? Do we want to go take our sea kayaks out and fish or explore? Or do we want to ride waves and carve on the sea? Yeah, it's nice to have the options. And oh man, I'm kind of getting excited to finish this up so we can go play.
So I promised Jeff in 60 minutes time, you can go and chuck your dry suit on, jump in your truck and go and drive down to the beach or something. All right. You got to just hold on for a short period of time.
We got time, but it's,
you've got plenty of time. So Cate, Jeff persuaded you to stop having a credible job that has got a set salary and like customers. I mean, easy customers, because the kids have to go to school, right? They turn up. And somehow between you set up Liquid Fusion Kayaking. Tell me about that little journey as it progressed.
Oh, it's the journey of life. When I first went into education, went to college to be a teacher, I wanted to teach outdoor education. I wanted to get kids out, rock climbing, mountain biking, running, just camping, doing things in the outdoors. And everybody's like, you'll never get a job. You need to get a real teaching credential and get a real teaching job so you can support yourself. And so I did. But when Jeff and I started teaching kayaking together, I was still teaching for the schools. I started to look a little bit out of the box and saw an opportunity to realize that dream that I'd had, that I'd always had, to be able to be a teacher outdoors. And that's how I view myself now, as a teacher without walls, teacher on the water. And it was a little scary, that first jump. It's always scary now, right now, being a small business owner, and now in the times of the COVID-19. But I think, you know, we're both creative and we find a way to make it work.
And on that subject of COVID-19, how's that impacting on you? What are you taking to keep the business open and thriving? Can somebody rock up and go boating with you tomorrow if they want to? Where does that find you, and where do you think the rest of this year is going to be for you?
Well, we're really excited that we get to open now. We have been closed. So we got maybe I wouldn't call it the green light, but the yellow light to open our business. And so with the yellow light, we're proceeding with caution. We are reevaluating a lot of our programs and determining what we can make safe for people, because safety is our #1 priority. And figuring out, okay, this is how we're going to have our gear super clean for people, how we're going to have people spaced out on the water isn't always a healthy thing, but how we're going to do, I guess, the social distance spacing, not spacing out, but figuring those things out into our plan. And so they can't show up tomorrow and go kayaking with us, but next week they will be. And we're easing into it with our rentals. So people can rent a kayak and go out on their own and enjoy our Noyo River, which is so beautiful right now.
Oh, man.
And you've got a new fleet of boats, right? Sorry, Jeff, go on.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got new boats. Yesterday, I took one of them out for a spin, and I was pleasantly surprised. I don't know, maybe if I was more excited about paddling a new kayak, or I had a mama harbor seal and her pup just floating right there next to me in the water.
That close.
It was
It's
tiny.
It was small. I mean, maybe 12, 18 inches, but it's cute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's superb. And your fleet has wheels on it. Isn't that genius?
Oh, it's brilliant.
How fun is that? It's got, you know, if you ever seen the one wheel that you stand on and ride it, that's what it's got on it. Kinda. It would be super cool for skill launches if it had wheels all the way down the keel strip in the middle, and you could just go zoof.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Zoom.
Yeah.
You could just go adapt one, take all the wheels off all of them, adapt just one at the end of the season before you want to sell any boats or anything like that, and go take it for a spin. That would be hilarious.
That would be.
Wheels are turning.
The wheels are turning,
Yeah.
indeed.
Unintended.
Unintended pun. So you get out and do all sorts of things. What is it, do you think, that people miss as they go through like their kayaking journey? What are they, as you know, somebody learns to kayak and then they see fancy, big, scary stuff and expensive stuff as well, and they race towards this destination of something or other. Maybe it's their first wave, their first roll. What do you think that people miss that's important on the way through their journey?
Flat water perfection.
Tell me more, Jeff.
Everybody sees, so in the sea, we see waves and we want to ride those waves, or we see the rock gardens. We want to ride those big pour overs like all the pros or whatever people are doing, or we see those waterfalls. You know, we see people hucking off of, big waterfalls. Like, I want to go 0 to 60, and they miss 59 miles per hour. There's so much in between that we can really dial in and perfect it. You know, I feel very lucky and fortunate that I got to learn to kayak by teaching kayaking at a beginner level. So I got to perfect my skills, you know, by learning them, teaching them, and all on flat water, no dynamic water. And it was super beneficial to my, I'd say, beginning of my enthusiastic kayak life.
What do you reckon, Kate? What else do you reckon? Is there anything else people miss?
I think a really good foundation in the fundamentals and coming back to those fundamentals. Often we have students that come to us in sea kayaking and they're working on a bow rudder and they don't have the prerequisite skills like Jeff was talking about, edge control, having a good sweep stroke, all the things that are necessary. So really honing in and being solid in those fundamentals.
I've become a big fan of, go on, sorry, Jeff, go on.
Foundation skill, rollover. For the dynamic waters. You don't need that for a lot of kayaking, but you know, people that want to go off a waterfall need a roll first. People that go in the rock gardens need a roll.
That's very true. And large testicles.
Yeah, that too. So, you know, to be that asset to the team they paddle with, because we don't paddle those type of dynamic waters by ourselves. So if you wet exit and swim, or you fall off your sit on top and swim, now you have other people that are going to have to try to help you. So be an asset, learn your foundations early.
I've become a big fan recently of multi-boat. So getting people in a sea kayak, a surf kayak, a whitewater kayak, a sit on top, a canoe, everything. And I found that, because if you're just in a sea kayak on flat water endlessly doing those foundation stuff, it can kind of get a bit, I won't say dull, but a bit tedious after a while. And yet that transferable thing of all those different boats sort of breaks it up a bit and gives people a really, really broad base to work from. I really, really like it.
Yeah, well said.
Was it for both of you that was, if you were to look back on your journey from learning to kayak to where you are now, what was the piece of advice or the thing you wished that somebody had told you to do back then that you didn't actually do? What was the step you missed or the thing you wish you'd done?
That's a good one. Yeah. I think you just nailed it, is being in a different craft. I think I was fortunate enough to be in a sea kayak and then in a whitewater kayak and a surf kayak, all within a mile of the shop I worked at. You know, it's like you had to be in those, learning and playing, and it really helped you adapt your skills faster on that. What else?
I don't have one at the moment. And some of that is Jeff's fault, because I learned to paddle from him. I learned all three disciplines at once, sea, river, and surf. And he was adamant as soon as I expressed an interest in learning to kayak that I learned to roll. And so I feel very fortunate to have had those beginnings and some good foundation skills and the roll right off the bat.
I mean, because if you'd have gone to a swimming pool if you wanted to be a swimmer, wouldn't you?
Yep.
Exactly. Oh, I have one. So in my first learning though is starting whitewater, starting on easier stuff on class 2. When I started whitewater, I had a roll and I knew how to kayak, and so I got thrown in on harder water, big water, and it was not fun. I had a day or two where I cried and swore I'd never whitewater kayak again, because it's just it was so scary, and rolling on the river is quite different than rolling in the sea and in the surf and in a pool.
It's amazing, actually. A lot of people get put off boating. Go on, Jeff.
Be very cautious when you teach your significant other how to kayak.
What possibly could go wrong?
Right.
I mean, look, you're both still together and smiling and talking with each other, so I guess it can't be all bad.
We endure.
Right. Kate, when we press stop at the end of this interview, you can sort him out later. He's forgotten to be a Marine by now. So, you know. You can sort him out. You can sort him out. So if people come up to the Mendocino coast and Fort Bragg and they want to go explore, what are some of the highlights of where it is that you guys call home that if somebody was to come up, they could go and like go to with you or go to independently? What's some of the highlights?
Are you asking about water or otherwise?
Well, let's just stick to the kayaking and we'll move on to the broader camping, biking, hiking, etc. afterwards.
Because that's all here too. Wow. So the water, there's something here for everybody. It's our estuaries. One of our business themes is from mild to wild. And our estuaries are just beautiful, wildlife rich, easy paddling environments. They're super sweet. They could go out with us, or they could rent kayaks, stand up paddleboards, go out on their own. Our coast is fun. It's always different depending upon the time of year. And we've got whales, we've got waves, we've got rock gardens and sea caves. We've got lots of blue water for paddling, got surf. It's pretty much anything someone would want to experience in a kayak in the sea we have here.
Yeah. I mean, there's times you can launch into the sea through no surf, so that's nice that you have access to the ocean without having to bust through those 300-meter long surf zones. It's like, no surf, off you go enjoy the big blue. And then you've got the the rock gardens are a stone's throw from the shore, and so being able to go through, not necessarily having to ride the big rides, but just being in and around the pulse of the sea, the washing in, the washing out, the rise, the drop, the sound, the color, just the negative ions that are bouncing off of everything, just giving you that smile. When you see people on the coast, what do you see? It's those negative ions, and the kayak is a great vehicle to get us there. Yeah.
Is that the reason why you do it now? The smiles on people's faces, or is it the job itself, or why do you do it? Because you two are very talented. You could do anything. So why this?
I think my batteries of my body, mind, body, soul are recharged with the smiles and energy of the customers, students, participants that are around us. So they smile, they're having fun. I'm like absorbing that energy, and it just makes me happy. I love talking about it too. Jeez. I'd rather do it, but I love talking about it.
Is it the same for you, Kate, or do you have your own different twist on it?
It's definitely the smiles, and something I find on our beginner tours is getting people out on the water who are afraid or who have never kayaked before. And that first 5 minutes of them floating, you just see the stress level melt away. And there's a peacefulness that we get from being on the water and getting to share that with people. And maybe I feel like a drug dealer in a way. I'm pushing this magical euphoria feeling of floating on the water, but it's really special to see that transformation of being super scared to just being at peace with being on the water. And then whether I'm teaching in the surf or teaching the first timers, is that opening their doors for more fun and more possibilities.
You two have, I don't know whether you know it or not, but you two have like a magic sauce when it comes to taking people paddling. So I've watched both of you coach on a number of occasions, and I guess you've had the misprivilege of watching me coach on a number of occasions as well. And it always strikes me as I watch groups come off the beach or off the estuary, I can kind of tell who's being coached by which coach as their people are coming back up. You can go, you're with so-and-so. And when I see people come up from a session you do together or independently, I just see massive smiles and enthusiasm like oozing out of these people as they're coming back to their vehicles and whatever else. And what I'm really curious about is what is it that you do that's different? Because there's other people whose clients come back up to their cars and they look like they've just done 5 rounds with Mike Tyson or something like that. They just don't look particularly happy with the world. So
I could do that too.
Multi-talented.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's keeping it fun. Keeping it fun, keeping it light. And, we do some silly things just to get people loosened up and engaged, and Congo dances on the beach, things like that. And so I think that's part of it. And I think we're not having them dragging back to the cars because we both plan out our lessons to have them well paced so that they're leaving with just a little bit left in the tanks to be excited about the next time they get to go paddling, not dreading, oh, I got to load the sea kayak on top of the roof of my car. So they're loading that sea kayak on the roof of the car, being like, oh yeah, can't wait for tomorrow.
Yeah, exhausted people are grumpy. Go on, Jeff.
My answer to that is, we have a class. You got, let's say, 8 people. And for me, it's a team sport. So it's us together. So engaging, having everybody engaged the best we can. But then it comes back a little bit to each individual. I think what helps me to keep the stoke going is trying to pick something for each individual and pieces to give them. And it might be, I think giving personal attention, giving a shit about those that are in front of you make a huge deal. And I'm not getting paid to say that. It's each individual that I get to work with, I care about. Even if I don't like them outside the paddling world, when they're in front of us, they're valuable. Their knowledge, their interest, their stoke, building that stoke is it's exciting, and I want to share it.
It's part of the, I often think when we're coaching, it's a bit like a juggling act. So you're right, you've got 8 people, which is almost like 8 individual balls. And, you've got one ball that might just change color in front of you and decide to fall out or do something epically crazy. You've got other people who are terrified. You've got somebody else who's desperate to learn how to do something crazy in his kayak or her kayak. And you just become like this juggler. That's what I find anyway, where I'm like.
Well said. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good analogy.
Yeah. I don't like the days when we juggle chainsaws.
Can I pay to do that with you?
You sure can. We start with Nerf chainsaws. They don't run.
Soft.
Very soft when they bounce off your head.
Well, look, this is what happened when I last juggled with chainsaws. I had hair until then, and then it went horribly wrong. So you guys, you both have the privilege of living and working in some people's dream, or many people's dream destination when it comes to the outdoors, right? You've got all this stuff on your doorstep. But if you were to think further afield than Mendocino Coast, Northern California, where are your individual other favorite destinations?
Not far from home, it's mine. I got a few other girlfriends that Cate calls my girlfriends, and those are rivers. And the Eel River is one of them. And so that it's not far away, and when the rains are flowing, it's a magical place from basic roadside park and plays to multiple day wild and scenic wilderness runs. So that's my playground closest to home that not salty.
Not salty. How about you, Cate? Is it close to home or further afield?
Well, I am predominantly a homebody, but you're asking about what are those destinations like when I get to leave home, where I want to go, and it's a wilderness multi-day river trip.
In a kayak or a canoe, or you raft, or are you not fussy?
I am fussy. Yes. Self-support kayak.
Ooh. As a larger whitewater kayak, is that right, or smaller?
No, sometimes we've done self-support. We did the John Day River in Oregon in our sea canoes. Our sea kayaks, and we did. Was it 14? I don't remember how long. It was close to 2 weeks trip in our sea kayaks. And it's a fun river class. It's big volume, so it's fun in the sea kayak. We've done some stretches of the Colorado in our sea kayaks, but I really like the river kayak.
Mm-hmm. Longer ones, yeah. I've been using, our first river trip together, we were in long, old
boats.
Eskimo, the old Eskimo kayak creek boats, so long, load a ton of gear in them. Yeah. I wish they'd bring those back, boy. And then most recent, we comboed it. We did a hybrid boat, so a 9.5 foot whitewater kayak, transition kayak, so you can load a lot of gear into it, and also a river play boat. And so Cate was fortunate enough to paddle the lightweight river boat, and I carried the barge. I paddled the barge, it carried most of the food, and then we found a wave in the wilderness at camp.
It's unloaded. Just isn't it? Yeah, I mean, I'm never quite too sure whether I like the river more or that time at the end of the day where you light the fire and you have a little whiskey by the campfire and you listen to the water and watch the scenery. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to go kayaking tomorrow, but I want to go kayaking tomorrow. But actually, I could spend 3 weeks here and be perfectly happy.
That's a problem we have. It's come to a lot of our trips. It's what's the least amount of miles we can paddle in the most amount of days.
It's interesting. I was on a podcast myself, was interviewed a few weeks ago, and one of the questions I got asked was around safety. They're like, what's your biggest safety tip? I'm like, plan to not paddle very far, but paddle all the time. So to have a 4-mile trip and then just pack it full of hilarious stuff the whole way through, and don't extend it. And I think it's the key to safety is just go less far and make more of it.
Yeah.
Yes. Ding, ding, ding.
It's more fun that way.
So, right, you're going to put me on a soapbox now. This is really could rant if I'm not careful, so I might have to stop. And you might have to stop me if I get politically incorrect or even am likely to upset the whole kayak community. What?
You're talking to the wrong people for that.
What is it with a certain sort of kayaker who wants to go on the sea paddling and they sit half a mile off the cliff and they paddle and they go and get this thing in their head they want to paddle, 15 miles or 20 miles today. And they just bob around half a mile off the cliff and exhaust themselves and get off the end and then can't carry their kayak to the car. Where did that come from?
That comes from, I can relate because, suffering's important. So getting your kayak and sitting in it for entirely too long in a day without getting out, just make your body suffer. But then it does the opposite of that. By blue water paddling, you can get into that rhythm where your brain, it's meditative. And so it's a very, very beneficial way to enjoy paddling. And at the end, you get to suffer and carry your kayak a mile up a trail back to the vehicle. And when you survive that, you get to share that. And it's a great story. You've suffered before, Rob, and we get to share stories about that, right?
Yeah. I have to admit, Jeff, I think I'm getting soft in my old age, though. I think that my days of suffering are decreasing, and I think suffering over thrill. I probably go for thrill quite a lot of the time. What do you think, Cate? This whole half a mile offshore paddling along thing. Are you with Jeff, or do you have your own little version of what you like, or what's your balance?
I don't get it. I my favorite place to play when I'm at home in the ocean is in the surf. And when I come back to the car and people ask me, and sometimes I have my little play boat, which is like all of 6 feet long, and they'll be like, oh, how far did you go? I'll be like, yeah, maybe about 50 yards, back and forth a bunch of times, riding waves. I don't know. I don't get the offshore paddling. I like to play, and so.
It's important. You know, when I was going paddling around Scotland a few years ago, in the UK, obviously, because that's where Scotland is, I was paddling and we were taking advantage of tide windows and weather windows and all sorts of things. And, you know, you get the right window of tide going in a direction, weather going in the right direction, and you're like, you jump on and you push because you're on this epic trip. And, you know, my biggest regret from it is too much blue water paddling. Because when I got back home, people were like, oh, the Summer Isles. What did you think of the Summer Isles? Aren't they beautiful? And this person has been and spent a week paddling on the Summer Isles, and we went headland to headland in 3.5 hours past the whole place they'd spent a week and missed most of it. And so I think it's important to find a balance, but equally, I don't know, you've got to like explore the caves and go and find out what's there to play with.
Yes. Yeah. Shortest distance in the most amount of time. Yep.
How much fun can you go out there and have? So you two are both continually improving your paddling. You're improving your thoughts around paddling. I would imagine in your heads, there isn't a day that goes past where you don't have a little aha moment or a little I wonder what if moment in your heads. What's like your current thing about paddling that's buzzing through your head that might not be resolved yet, but it's like whirring around? And please don't say coronavirus and COVID-19 because I'm bored of that conversation.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Ahas popping through my head is how fast and effective can we get people on the water to have those aha moments? So how can we get them floating? So this is on a business level. How can we get people floating and just stoked and addicted to the water sport right away? So that's one. And then the other personal one is having more comfort, learning to calm the head down, and having better presence of mind playing on the sea. So that's a big one. Not as easy for everybody. So finding that presence of mind in dynamic waters and having kind of that Zen moment when chaos is all around is definitely one of those I'm working on.
And is that something you find that happens inside your own head in those moments, that suddenly like you're not as clear and focused as you want to be? Or how does that happen?
I think the endorphins kick and the adrenaline kicks and they get ahead of me, and learning to control that and use all that energy spread out versus all at once. You know, as Kuthi said, Paul Kuthi years ago, he and I were playing together, teaching together. He's like, hey, we can't give the students all the information at once. It's like if a rattlesnake gives you all its venom at once, then it has no protective measures, no means to go beyond that. So little bits at a time. So letting it spread out.
It's a fine balance, isn't it? Because you're adrenaline and enthusiasm. And sometimes you find you get adrenaline not for yourself. Well, like it's inside of yourself, but it's for something that somebody is about to do. You like get excited on their behalf. And like, you have to finding a way of bottling that so that you don't get, because I've been in the situation where I've got excited on somebody else's behalf and I've almost psyched them out of going to do what they're going to go and do. Because I'm like, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be epic. It's going to be this. And then they're like, oh shit, if Rob says it's going to be epic, it's going to be friggin' dangerous.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. Yes, our enthusiasm gets ahead of us.
Yeah. How about you, Kate? What's buzzing through your mind at this point in time?
Well, one thing is in my personal paddling, I love to surf. I love to surf river waves. I love to surf ocean waves. And I guess when I first started learning to surf, it was in a maneuverable whitewater kayak and then in a surf kayak. And there is nothing I love more than dropping in on a wave and climbing and dropping and cutting back and making turns, doing all those things. In our industry, sea kayaking, everybody has this, it's like the holy grail is sea kayak surfing. And
are we on rants?
Yeah,
I'm saying that personally it's something that I'm working on, and I have a hard time working on it because we go to the beach and we have the sea kayaks on the roof, and of course I've made the mistake of putting my surf kayak on the roof too, and I see these beautiful waves and I want to surf them. I want to rip the shit out of them. And we're supposed to be doing sea kayak surfing, but I don't know. I'm working on learning the longboat, and I'm trying to learn the love of the longboat. And I've had a couple good sessions this spring, but it's that difference of what I have in my mind of what surfing is, that turning, nimble, dancing with the wave, to it's just changing that expectation. So that's something in my personal boating that I'm somewhat trying to work on, but the mental part of it.
Kayaking control is a bit like the holy grail of sea kayaking, isn't it? Like, it's, well, we all know that if you surf a sea kayak, the losing the control of the sea kayak is ridiculously simple to do, and it always amazes me that people want to learn how to like surf a sea kayak, and I'm like, do you know how hard that shit is? Like that is. Like that is like, I think I'm quite good at surfing sea kayaks personally, and I know just how much it takes out of me when I'm doing it well. Like it feels easy till I get to the beach, and then I feel dead afterwards. I'm like, oh my goodness me, that was heavy. And I just wonder whether people lead themselves up the garden path to try and lose themselves with this idea of, I don't know. It's almost like they want a degree of control that you get in a playboat, even though we're not in a playboat. I suppose that was what I think.
Well, I try to do playboat moves in my sea kayak when I'm trying to surf it, but it's usually on accident.
I've got news. If you really want to get Mr. Paul Kuthi, who may well be watching this, biting, if you want to do that, get him on the subject of playboating in a sea kayak and doing a loop in a sea kayak. So when you next speak to him, just throw it in there that you've seen several people looping sea kayaks recently, and then just, you can just, I don't know, there's some people, if you mention a certain president at a certain point in time, you like light the fuse, and then they just like a Chinese lantern firework, they just and Paul is just like that when you get him on the subject of looping a sea kayak.
Yeah.
Okay.
Isn't that called flopping?
I've tried doing the math on how big a feature do you need to actually properly loop a sea kayak? Like in control, land it, so therefore the back end goes up, and then the back end catches, and the front end comes back over again. The full, and I can do that in a creek boat, and I can do that in a freestyle boat, and I know just how big a feature I have to have with just how much water to go and do that in one of those boats. And then you start doing the math about what's the size of that wave that you need, and what's the depth of that wave that you need to achieve the same thing.
I don't think I want to be on that wave.
See, I don't know if you were there. Did you come for the coach's paddle after Lumpy Waters the other year, where it was like 18 feet to 18 seconds or something like that? It was about 7 or 8 years ago.
Which year was that?
Yeah, every year.
Almost.
Is that when you got that epic ride, that long epic ride?
Yeah. So I'm out there then, and that's some of the math that's going through my head. Is I'm like, I wonder if I could loop this boat, and I wonder if these waves are big enough, and I wonder if I'm brave enough, and I wonder if I might break myself, and so on and so forth. And I came to the conclusion that I wasn't brave enough, and probably 18 feet 18 seconds wasn't big enough. And then I just thought, I don't particularly want to go paddling in stuff bigger than that. That just,
a speck on the sea.
Well, you know what? Some of it is the size of the wave and the water, but then you're also in this 16-foot boat with so much volume. And I just think of the torque that is on the body, where looping a playboat is, like I said, my playboat's like 6 feet and 50 gallons, where I don't know what the volume is of the sea kayak, but just that impact and torque on your body of doing that too.
Like you could be like a fighter pilot, like negative G-force or something like that as you go through the air.
We need to bring in some.
We need some younger people for this. I feel like an old person having this conversation.
We need Mr. Kuthi when he was like 23 again, and go and set him off to go do it and prove the world wrong.
All of us at 23. Jeez, I was unleashed. Yeah, I know you were.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I think we just hang in there for another maybe 10, 15 years. Kuthi has a protege that's coming along that will be maybe looping sea kayaks.
Oh yeah, Little Canyon. I see he's already like seal launching downstairs and doing stuff like that. That little kid's off places, hey?
Yes.
Yeah.
The next Dane Jackson is what I put my money on.
Jeez.
That'd be incredible. When I was 23, thinking about what I was doing when I was 23, I was kayaking in the Himalayas a lot when I was 23. And I kayaked with a guy, everybody calls him Crazy Dave. And Crazy Dave's motto is, gravity always wins, so let's go. So we'd get to the top of like this obscene rapids, and the noise, and to the point, I broke into one eddy once, and Dave breaks in, and the eddy is class 3 itself, let alone the river. Like the eddy has got its own holes and waves in it as it's going round. It's this ginormous thing. And I hadn't paddled the river before, and I said to Dave, "What's the line?" He said, "I can't remember, but gravity always wins," peels out of the eddy into the current and disappears off the first horizon line. I'm like, oh shit.
Downhill.
Gravity always wins. Anyway, that's too much about me. Now, I have a question for you. I've had lots of questions for you. Myself and Mr. Nick Cunliffe have been pontificating about bringing the Lumpy Waters pub quiz to an online, like, coronavirus capacity.
I want to be with Nick. I want to team up with Nick. Oh yeah.
So the real question is, it's quick. Are you in?
I'm in.
Yep. We'll do it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Right. Check. I asked you the question now because now you're live on Facebook. Like, it's quite hard to say no.
It's all good. Chaos man.
That's it. I'm just trying to work out a way. I think we all might have to take a bit of a risk in our daily schedule, because you can't have that pub quiz without a beer or 5.
I'll drink in the morning.
Whiskey and the coffee.
Hey, you can't drink all day if you don't start in the morning.
That's very true. You'd be a drinking all day failure if you didn't start at breakfast.
Yeah, but we could end the day there. It's just, I'll go on your timeline for a week, and then it'll feel okay.
Yeah, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Like, nobody takes this stuff seriously. Cool. Okay, so we're coming towards the end of our time together, and I did send you a message about this, but I want to give you the chance to each, or individually or together, to have a rant about something. Now, I say it's a 60-second rant, but frankly, if you're on your soapbox and going for it, I'm going to let you go for minutes, because that's just brilliant. You can rant about anything you please. So an example about this, I had Bren Orton on the podcast, who's a Piranha-sponsored whitewater kayaker, does crazy stuff, and Bren's a vegan. And his rant was all about veganism, which was hilarious. If you haven't watched it, go listen to the end of his interview, because when a vegan lets rip about being a vegan, and like attacks his own kind. It is comical genius. Mr. Cunliffe started talking about becoming in his rant, and I don't know how he got here in a rant, but Nick Cunliffe spoke about becoming an author for kinky female books to rival 50 Shades of Grey about his future career path. Now, how he got into that from a rant which originally started on kayaking is beyond me, but we both know Nick and know that nothing is impossible with that man. So,
the other day ago, I was loading up some kayaks at a kayak shop that we picked up. Headwaters Kayaks, where we got some of our new rental kayaks. But anyway, that's beyond. And they had this mount on the back of a kayak. And I'm like, that looks like a transom. What's that for? And we're talking about a kayak, right? You paddle a kayak. Some people pedal them, but mostly it's paddling. It's a paddle craft. Electric motor going on a kayak? Oh, piss off. And then just goes in. So I like low-tech life. I shoot a bow and arrow. It's a traditional bow. It's not all these mechanisms. We were on a mountain bike, single track trail, and there's an e-bike. And this was a 30-year-old person riding an electronic bicycle. Bullshit. Pedal that damn thing and don't destroy the trails. Watching people that are totally capable of walking on a flat coastal trail, riding an e-bike, that are physically fit enough to ride a bicycle with pedals. And then I heard about this thing that people take on e-cigarettes. What, you can't light it and then smoke whatever everything. Next thing you know, we're gonna have shoes that are there's like an e-wheel on it, like a one wheel for each shoe. So electronic, what do you call it? Mechanical advantages or advantages. Humans, get off your ass and move. Stop this stuff. If you're injured, sure, get yourself back into it. But when you are using that as a crutch, you're human. Get off your arse and move. Okay, that was it. Rant, e-bikes, e-things. Yeah.
I love it. I have a big fear that links to this, that if we're not careful in 20 years' time, 80-90% of planet Earth is going to turn into like human bodies will turn into like jelly, like no muscle, no tone, no vigor, no nothing. Like if they want to scratch their nose, they'll just think about it and some electric thing will do it for them. And as a parent, it terrifies me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There you go.
Share in this rant, by the way.
Say again.
Does Cate share in this rant?
Let's let her do her own rant.
Oh. It's funny. Well, to tag on to his, I don't share into it the extent that he does. Yeah, I see the advantages of some of the electronic stuff, but whatever. We'll just leave it be at that.
I met a group of people on top of a mountain probably in January time when I was out mountaineering in South Africa, and I'm on my own. And I'm in a mountain range called the Drakensberg, and the climb you have to do up the ridgeline I went up, well, it's quite sporty. I think that would be a accurate way of, especially if you've got a big heavy backpack on your back with 6 or 7 days worth of food and tent and so on and so forth to be in the mountains. It's quite sporty. There's like a 400-meter drop off to one side, so it's quite a long way down. And anyway, I get halfway up to find this guy there with his iPhone out, sat there, looking distressed. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I don't know where I am. I'm like, what? Why do you not know where you are? Oh, my phone's run out of battery. I'm like, have you got a map and a compass? Or how did you end up here? Oh, I read an online guide on Google and I just thought I'd give it a go. And I'm there like, oh my goodness gracious me. I felt like, you know how the Coast Guard must feel when it goes out to rescue a sea kayaker who isn't really a sea kayaker. They've just bought a sea kayak and now call themselves a sea kayaker. And they've read something about a meetup group that did something once one day somewhere and just decided to go and do it upon themselves, go and do it. And then they have the oh shit moment and have to call in, international rescue. And I just felt like that, kind of Navy Coast Guard diver as he swims up to that person and went, how did you end up here? And the guy's like, well, it seemed like a good idea at the time.
Yeah, exactly. That just sparked me another rant. So
do it, Jeff, do it.
I'll let Cate go first, and then if there's more time, then I'll rant my second one.
Well, you should go ahead because I don't really feel like I have much of a rant. Oh, he's Jonesing. Let him go.
So here we go. So kayaking, back on the kayaking. So anybody can go and buy a kayak, right? And around here we have this thing about sit on tops versus sit inside. And I don't need any skills to paddle a sit on top. Well, bullshit. If you watch our teammates, Tsunami Rangers, they're in wash deck kayaks with seatbelts on them and they roll the things. Yes, sit on tops that roll. And my rant is people think that, I'm just going to paddle a sit on top. Those sit insides are dangerous. You could die in those. It's like, no, you want to paddle in extreme conditions, have the skills. When you fall off your sit on top, you can get back on it. This thing about sit inside kayaks, you fall over, roll the damn thing up. If not, jump out of it and figure out what's next. But, so my rant is don't discourage sit on tops or sit inside kayaks because they both have, they both put smiles on our face and both can be paddled in extreme conditions as long as the model is right. Don't take a sun dolphin in the rock gardens, it's going to explode.
Do you find it interesting? So if you go buy a car, right, you've got to have a driving license. If you get a motorbike, you need a motorbike license. And I find it interesting that we can go and buy ourselves a kayak and go drown ourselves, and we're never required to learn a single thing, like to go do it, even though the cost of having somebody else sort your shit out for you when you've ultimately caused it for yourself is probably as much as a road traffic accident or anything else.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Oh. Go on, Cate. We could be here for hours.
That was a mini rant, but there you go.
That's amazing. Listen, you two, I want to thank you for being absolutely incredible and for what it is you bring to the sport of kayaking. And to all the people who have the privilege of spending time with you. I think all too often we don't get to see, we don't get to have a bird's eye perspective on what it is we do and what it is we achieve for people. But as I wander around the world and I talk to people, Barry Hughes put a message on the Facebook group earlier saying, oh, awesome, Jeff and Cate, I remember paddling with them, such great human beings. And I don't think you know what big an impact you have on people and how you change people's lives. Like you actually give them a route to go and put a smile on their face, be happy, break free of the shit they deal with the whole time. And you do it in a way where you offer people the opportunity to develop a mastery while not being bored at the same time. So also often we end up with like mastery is boredom. And you two do mastery with smiles, fun, and enthusiasm, which is truly unique. So I just wanted to say thank you, really. It's a privilege to have you as friends, but also a privilege to watch what it is that you do in the outdoors for people. Because if people haven't experienced the Jeff and Cate show or the Cate and Jeff show or the Liquid Fusion show, they really, 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 really need to.
Wow.
Thanks, Rob.
That's really kind. It's
wow.
That shit right there motivates me to want to keep doing it. So thank you.
Well, it's true. Now, there's many people listening to this. We've had people so far, I'm just looking off to my left at my other computer screen. We've had people from Norway, Alaska, the UK, France, where else are people? South Africa, Germany. And those are just the people I know who've joined us in this conversation. Oh, and obviously America. There's a whole bunch of USA people, a couple of Canadians by the looks of it as well. If these people want to come find you, stalk you, check out what you're doing, come paddling with you, how do they find you? Where's best to keep in touch with Jeff and Cate?
So easiest, we got the old World Wide Web out there. Liquid Fusion Kayaking.com is us. So that's our website that we kind of do. Social media, I'll let Cate kind of plug that a bit. Pick up the telephone, send us an email, communicate, ask us a question, let us engage with you. Let's help break some ice that might be in your way. That's definitely a way to we can kind of reach out. But social media, what do we got?
Well, Instagram and Facebook. Today we posted a picture of our buoy getting repaired that's out in the Noyo Harbor. So you never know what you're going to see on our Instagram and Facebook pages. Well, except that it's going to be interesting and fun and maybe kayaking related. No, I encourage you to sign into those. Check us out there and follow our stuff, like our stuff, share our stuff. And then, like Jeff said, get on that website, see our calendar, and YouTube. Come play with us.
I got a YouTube channel as well, so definitely go check that out. There's some fun, entertaining videos of stuff that we like to do.
And I have a new one that's coming out very soon on the YouTube channel.
See, yeah. So there's always something fun.
Give us a little hook, Cate. What's in the new one? What's there? What's the hook?
Yeah, what's that hook? Show me some flashy.
It's about one of our favorite topics, poop.
Oh no.
And poop in the wilderness.
That's a good one.
And Jeff's the star.
Of course. Shit talking.
So subscribe to our YouTube channel. Get first dibs on that one for sure.
Marvelous. So, I mean, somebody's white buttocks had to be the star of the show, so I guess they may as well be Jeff's. So, it's perfect. So folks, no matter where you are in the world, if you want to go kayaking, you have an amazing time, whether you're a complete beginner or a huge expert, I just encourage you to go and jump online, find Liquid Fusion Kayaking, go and hang out with Jeff and Cate, go see seals, dolphins, whales, surf waves, go kayak, do whatever you want to, just tell them. And in particular, if you're a paddler and you're struggling with something and you want somebody to solve your problem, just send them an email and go, help. Can you help me solve X, Y, and Z? And they're likely to say yes, and they're likely to find time. And at the end of it, you're likely to have got on top of what you need to get on top of, and also likely to have an action plan and some ideas about what to do next, which I think is super critical. So Jeff and Cate, thank you for joining me this evening or this morning or whatever time of day it is. Cheers. Here's to future paddling adventures together.
Yeah,
looking forward to it. Yeah,
absolutely. Thanks so much for having us on. It was a pleasure.
It's amazing to be with you. And Barry Hughes has just said on the Facebook Live, he's going to make a plan to get back out to see you guys.
Oh, that'd be great.
Fantastic. Yeah, look forward to that.
Super cool. Yeah. This episode is brought to you by the We Get Outdoors tribe, where your next adventure is just one click away. You can join this, the fastest growing outdoor group on planet Earth, and become part of a tribe of like-minded outdoor enthusiasts, sharing your adventures, their adventures, trips and insights, and helping to ensure you plan and have the most perfect adventures. Click on the link in the description below to join for free right now.